You know, it really sucks that there are no more traditional handheld systems in the greater gaming landscape. The last one that was worth a damn was the 3DS, and sure, while you could argue that either iteration of the Nintendo Switch or the plethora of retro gaming handhelds out there exist, nothing beats having a dedicated system that would get fresh and exciting passion projects. Smaller titles that didn't cost nearly as much as their home console older cousins, but nowhere near as cheaply made as let me see here. Sonic the Hedgehog for the Leapfrog Digi. Actually, no, games that get children excited about education are a good thing, but anyway. The handheld era for Sonic the Hedgehog has been a thing since way back in the 90s with the Sega Game Gear, where a number of titles that were released on home consoles managed to be ported over to this smaller system, albeit at a reduced bit number. You'd think that this would make them lesser, but no, actually. A lot of people consider the Game Gear version of Sonic 2 specifically to be the definitive experience between the two versions available, even with the caveat that Tails isn't playable in the portable entry. There was also Sonic the Hedgehog Pocket Adventure, which turned more heads than I think people give the game credit for. It's the first ever recorded game appearance of a modern Sonic with his staple green eyes. Although the game has since been blacklisted by Sonic Team due to some legal issues with SNK and considered non-canon, this is perhaps one of the best rated Sonic portable titles to ever release. But the waves it made will be overshadowed by games during the following decade that are still being clamored over today. Handheld Sonic during the 2000s had an absolutely generational run, introducing, reintroducing, and solidifying several game mechanics and characters for like the 9 years or so that it was around. I'm talking heavy hitters, bro. Games that people are still wondering why we haven't seen more of, or at least a remaster today. Sonic Battle, Sonic Advance 3, Sonic Rush, Sonic Rivals, all banger games that deserve to be revisited in some right. Granted, this is still back when home consoles weren't costing an arm and a leg almost, so more people had them at their disposal. But folks were still making way to buy a whole new portable machine just to experience a brand new Sonic game. The Sonic Advance trilogy had me personally in a chokehold, and although I only ever fully beat Sonic Advance 3 100% with the Chaos Emeralds and whatnot, I still put countless hours into Advances 1 and 2. Side-scrolling Sonic was brought into a whole new generation with these games, mixing that classic tried-and-true formula with the flair of games like the Adventure series. Hell, I mean a game mechanic that Sonic's become synonymous with was introduced in a handheld title for Pete's sake. Taking things even further, we had Sonic Battle, arguably the de facto game that people think of when you say Sonic fighting game, and apologies to my Sonic the Fighters fans. I see you. But this game right here, man, it will beat the f***ing brakes off you in that late game, but god does it exude this coolness that we just haven't seen anywhere else in my opinion. Maybe because we haven't gotten a fighting game since then, but I digress. Sonic Battle is one of them ones. First ever created character, technically, with Emerald, a special system that allows you to set up your own playstyle, and a story that, although seems really small in scale, it spanned over 21 years after the fact through various other games and characters, like Gemerald, the Extended Echidna Tribe, and Shadow the Hedgehog. Not to mention, this game had all the markings of a legit home console fighting game. Story mode, PvP versus mode, if you actually managed to have friends, and that jank-ass Game Boy connector thingy, a minigame collection that you could only really play Minesweeper with, unless you once again had that aforementioned jank Game Boy connector thingy, survival mode, and records. I've been the biggest proponent of us getting another Sonic Fighter, since it's already really in the DNA of this franchise, but who knows, we may be surprised at the Game Awards or something. We also saw Sonic Pinball Party, which actually had a story, believe it or not, that involved Tails and Amy getting brainwashed, along with some other character interactions, but I never completed it since pinball wasn't my thing as a kid. Anyone who has completed the game can let me know if the story was dog water or not down in the comments. Then there's everyone's goats, the Sonic Rush duology. Specifically the first one, but Sonic Rush Adventure got some shooters out here, and I'm one of them, so if you want to get froggy about it, then go ahead and jump. Nah, but for real. Blaze the Cat in the game she co-starred in pulled a lot of people into the franchise. Take everything I said about the Advance series and just make it better. Boosting, trick animations that you can spam and use to reach new locations or clear the level faster, and one of the better stories to come out during this period of Sonic history. It's a shame that not much outside of these two games have done anything with a Soul Dimension, but given that the original was huge enough to warrant a sequel, and said sequel was big enough to get Blaze to stick around in any capacity, is a dub in my book. I mean, dog, she's the first and only woman in Sonic to get a super form, and also one of my favorite Sonic characters purely based off of feats and raw aura. Thankfully, I can say the same thing about Silver and the Sonic Rivals games. It's funny, because I didn't actually own a PSP. My older brother did, and I hijacked his system a number of times because of the games I bought for his device, but got away with it since he just never did the same for me and my DS. Guess he was too busy hogging the PS3 for me, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. There's really no way to describe Sonic Rivals other than a more streamlined yet basic version of Sonic R. Shocker, I know. 1v1 races with items this time around, but keeping the unique abilities locked behind star-powered moves. And that's about it as far as gameplay. Even with those restrictions though, I filed the Sonic Rivals games under the so jank I love it category of Sonic. Titles that you can't help but love once you get over how strange they are gameplay wise. Is it Stockholm Syndrome? Shit, maybe. But I'm a proud victim in this sense. Couple collecting those little cards to complete a set from a specific game, the extra costumes, shout out Silver's stealth outfit, and the missions that were honestly harder than they had any need to be, and you'll have yourself a good time. Don't know if it's because of how interactive the stages were or what, but something about this game just made me want to see any and everything it had to offer. Which wasn't much, but still. And after this, there were no more traditional handheld Sonic games that follow the criteria that I set earlier. After the PSP, many of the titles were released on subsequent portable systems would either be ports of home console versions or sequels that were too far ahead in production to cancel already. Sure, some of them had slightly different levels, maybe adjusted plot lines and whole new mechanics, but at their core, a game very similar to its older cousin could be found. The mobile gaming market had finally exploded circa 2010, and Sonic jumped ship to capitalize on it. We'd get the mobile games like Sonic Jump, Dash, Runners, and the influx of sequels or spin-offs conjured up by those, along with a decent number of older Genesis titles over on the respective phone app stores. But when it comes to truly dedicated handheld adventures, Sonic Rivals 2 was it. You could count Sonic Boom Fire and Ice, and I think you should, as that is a totally original story, but by the time that game came out, the Boom sub-franchise was cooked, like overdone. With the advent of the Nintendo Switch melding the line between handhelds and home consoles even further, I think it's safe to say that the portable gaming landscape, as many of us knew it from the mid-90s to the early 2010s, is officially dead. Yeah, we have Sonic on a handheld, technically, but they're the same games that you can get on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, which isn't a bad thing, of course. But the days of having a pocket adventure that added to the larger mythos of Sonic the Hedgehog is gone, and in their place, come full-on side games or expansion packs to entries that we got 10 years ago. It's bittersweet seeing just how homogenized everything has become, not only with Sonic, but the gaming landscape as a whole. To think that you no longer have to spend money on different consoles to get different stories for games in a series that you may not love all that much is a godsend. But I can't sit here and say that the lack of variation doesn't still sting a bit. Do you think that the way gaming itself has meshed into this one huge ball of uniformness is good, since it allows everyone to experience the same titles equally, or does it take away from the creative visions and passions of the past? Also, let me know your favorite Sonic handheld game. Till next time though guys, it's good to be back.